I am Loretta Mayer, and I am a rodentologist, but really my training is in women's health. Mostly it's heart disease in postmenopausal women. And on that path, that journey, I had to have a mouse that was postmenopausal, and you know, mice breed their whole life. That's kind of hard. So with a colleague at ASU, we created a postmenopausal mouse. So that was a young mouse who could still get heart disease, bless her heart, and but she didn't reproduce. And I thought, oh, so that's the beginning of my journey. And I'm going to take you from heart disease in women around the world and into the environmental science of no more poison in our environment. We are a nonprofit. We're a 501c3. We are a public charity. And our goal is to get poison out of the environment. So as a nonprofit, we only go when we're called. And generally we're called by people to create a balance in a chaotic world. Why do they call? Because they're about to experience chaos. Sometimes we go to solve these problems because food security is the issue. And I don't want this to frighten anyone. These are our colleagues in Australia. Those are mice. Have you heard of the mouse plagues in Australia? She's going into her pig barn to take care of her pigs. Yeah, we got that call. Sometimes, though, we go for animal welfare. Now, this was taken in an animal veterinary clinic in Los Angeles. This is an X-ray. What you're looking at on this X-ray is a cat who's laying on a table. And the time it took the technician to walk from laying the anesthetized cat on the table to go flip the radiology switch, that rat, that is a rat, dropped out of the ceiling and connected to that cat. Remember, it's about balance. This is not in balance, but sometimes we just go because we're called. And ever since I've been a little kid, they would say, you can't do that. And everybody knows when somebody says that to a young girl, what is she gonna do? Absolutely, she's gonna do it. So we're gonna talk about some of our work in the Galapagos Islands. There's an island in the Galapagos, and the island is Pinzon. On the island of Pinzon, they were overrun with rodents. And when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so the good-meaning folks at Island Conservation decided that they would eradicate using poison. So the first thing they did, though, they removed these beautiful Galapagos raptors. And these birds only exist in the Galapagos Islands. Then they dropped Brodifacoum. Then in 2013, they returned the raptors. But here's the problem. Raptors, these beautiful animals, eat lava lizards. The lava lizards bioaccumulated the Brodifacoum because it does not break down in the environment. And they died. This was our challenge. Now, I have been on the scientific advisory board for Raptors of the Solution for the last 3 years, and they have created this toxic food web because it starts with one of these classic boxes that normally has poison in it. And so what you need to understand is that if a rat, a vole, a mouse eats this poison, and then any of these predators ate the rat, it's going to kill them. Sometimes it takes years. But this is the bioaccumulation of a chemical compound that will not break down in the environment. 3 years later, from the same kind of project, it was on Rat Island in the Pacific, they dropped poison, killed what they thought were all the rats, but they found residual rat poison 3 years later. I think this would be the end to the San Francisco fishing industry were they to do that in California. And I've been working with them for 3 years this month. Let's take a look at rodenticides and the life cycles. In 1947, believe it or not, that was before I was born, we had strychnine. And that's what people use, because the concept was, I have a pest, it's eating my plants, I need to kill it. In the 1950s, along come the warfarins, which is a first-generation anticoagulant. If you have anyone in your family on heart disease, they may have given them warfarin to thin their blood. In the 60s, along comes difecinone, which is a warfarin that hangs around longer. In the 70s, they introduced those eschars, second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides. And nothing has changed since then. They have new formulations. You can get them in pellets, you can get them in bars, you can get it in sachets, you can get it with this name, that name. But it's been 46 years. And the California Ecosystems Protection Act, the state of California voted to take eschars off the market except for agriculture. And we worked on that. Governor Newsom signed it in 2019. And this August, the EPA just issued their proposed intervention discussions on these eschars. That was 46 years. I want to be clear, rat poison is a 20th century solution. What this model shows is that if you poison or kill both rats and mice, it will knock them down, but then it will rebound, because you see here, you never get them all. A male and a female rat, over their lifetime of 8 to 12 months, can contribute 15,000 pups. If you blunt reproduction, it takes longer, but it remains low. That was the model in 1972. Now, let's understand who we're dealing with. These rodents, when they have food insecurity, they adapt. What that means is if there's no more food at your house, they're going to go over to your house. If they take poison, they're going to bleed out over several days. And that's where your cat, your dog, a beautiful raptor can be impacted. Here's the biggest problem we're dealing with today. And we've recently published this. We're now working with Dr. Steve Schuster at NAU. He's a population modelist. And so here's what happens. The rats, remember I told you they adapt? I never found anything a rat couldn't breed its way out of. What happens is they become resistant to the poison. Now let's go back to this model. We tested it. We were asked to go to the city of Seattle. These green bars, this is fertility control. This is the calculated number of rats at the site. This is a construction site. So you can see it took them 15 weeks before the population started to decline. But it declined even farther, even farther. At another construction site with the same technicians, we used poison. The poison knocked it down right away, just like it said in this model. But then it began to rebound. So we were able to show with these animals exactly what was happening. This is data from a block in Los Angeles where I took the picture, the X-ray picture. And what we wanted to see was, yeah, you can knock it down, but will it last? Yes. Over 2.5 years, we've sustained a 98% reduction. How does fertility control solve the problem? This is an egg, okay? This is a sperm. If this sperm has a tail that will not allow it to swim, and there's no egg, guess what? No pups, right? Right, birth control. Simple, we know that. Okay, in 2016, Cheryl and I invented ContraPest. It was licensed to a commercial company and has an EPA registration. It's a liquid contraceptive, and that's what I used in those last 2 graphs to show that fertility control would work. However, this was not moved forward because it needed some improvements. So we formed Wisdom, which, by the way, stands for Women in Science Doing Outreach and Mentoring. That's where you get wisdom. Hard knocks help too. And in just 3 years, we have created the solution that is in use worldwide. Okay, what was it that we needed to do? Remember, we only go where we're called. So we asked Island Conservation, we asked New York City, we asked the city of Boston, we asked the USDA, I can't remember who else we asked. What is it we have to do to get fertility control accepted and working? Well, first of all, it's a feed. What rodents do is they eat our food. They sit, that's why they're called commensal. So you're feeding them. So make a food for them. It's gotta be organic. It has to be something that is non-toxic. It has to be nutritional. Anybody see the movie Ratatouille? Uncle Fred ate the poison and never came back. They never went to that restaurant again. It needs to stop their reproduction. Here was our biggest challenge. We had to do it for pennies. Why pennies? Because a small farmer in Tanzania cannot afford poison. A small farmer in Mainpat, India cannot afford poison. It has to be the most inexpensive thing there is. And that's why we turned to nature. Nature always has the answer. This Cryptogenarium wilfordi hook F. This is a plant that grows as a weed. But if you isolate and extract at least 3 different compounds in that plant, you'll have a magic birth control pill. So here's how it works. It takes 3 phases. We first have to know where the rodents are, how many there are. Sometimes, for example, in Boston, we had to know, my God, was that a rodent? Oh no, the cameras told us it was a raccoon. Okay, so you have to learn the animals you're dealing with. Then you use a feeding station and you feed them. And then, once the population is down, you still feed them a maintenance food. Why? So other rats will migrate in. And depending on the age of the animal, their reproduction will be stopped between 1 and 5 days. Males are much more sensitive. The natural ingredient, as I said, is metabolized within minutes. What that means is, if your cat eats a rat that has had contraceptive, it won't affect your cat at all. And the other thing is, it doesn't bioaccumulate. No bioaccumulation in the soil or water. We also have this developed so it can be delivered by drones on islands. Very inexpensive, very effective. This is the discovery box. This is what we feed them, okay? It has a very strong peanut butter smell, but it's non-toxic. I have used this product, and I will tell you though, because I'm gonna pass this around, you're all invited to taste it. But if you have an allergy to peanuts, not good. So what we do is we put on the lids a QR code. If you come across one, you use the QR code and that'll take you right to our website so you can learn everything there is to know about it. Before we went to the Galapagos, we went to a pigeon enclosure in Utah. Why did we do that? I mean, I love Utah, but we did it because we wanted to know, in an enclosed setting, could we reduce this population, this was about a 2,000 square foot setting, could we reduce it to close to zero, or that same 98%? And the reason we wanted to do that, because that's like an island, right? If you're on an island and they don't come or go, this would be a model. But the real reason we did it, we were going to Darwin's flagship islands, where his finches are. I did not want to be the scientist that rendered his finches incapable of breeding. So we collected all of the eggs. Egg laying was normal. I'm about to publish this. It was all the birds that were seen by vets. There was no ulterior effects. So it's time to go. We answer the call from the government of Ecuador. Remember that island where they killed the hawks? That's right here. That's the island of Pinzon. We were right here in the farms of Isabela. This is on the equator. And we went for George. George was the oldest giant tortoise in the world. He's been embalmed. He's at the Darwin Institute. These tortoises lay their eggs 18 inches below ground. Rat burrows are 18 inches below ground. They love eggs. We also went for the birds, and we went for the environment, for clean water. Now, Bree, I think she went so she could drink water out of a non-plastic, non-metal, non-ceramic vessel. And drink it she did. So, here are some of the things that we learned. First of all, we had no idea, are those rats the same as the rats in the New York City subway or in downtown LA? Well, here's another thing. We didn't want to take plastic onto this island. We wanted these farmers and their kids to be able to make this and use it themselves. So they had to have delivery boxes that were out of a natural substance, like wood. Amy Dries at Sonoa Middle School gave us all of her kids and her wood shop for 7 weeks. These kids made these boxes. Morgan tested them. Oh, look, yeah, the mice love it. They go in there. But these 2 boxes, we took to the islands. We took those to the Galapagos so we could tell those kids, you've solved a problem. We learned many things. In the upper right-hand corner, this box, the kids punched holes in the top so the rat could smell the peanut butter. This box later on was covered in rats. Brilliant. Now this one down here was for mice. Do you see that? And so what they wanted the mice to have were little holes here, so they felt safe going in there. Notice one more thing. Observation. Science is all observation. This is at night. This is during the day. Mice were out during the day, rats were out at night, because this is a farm dog, and his job is to capture rats. Learn your animals, learn your environments. This is Cheryl's favorite phrase: if a rat won't eat it, doesn't matter what it is, it's not gonna work. So our first goal out in these jungles, and this is easy for me to say, I had COVID, I was back at camp. But in these jungles, they went out, they placed these feeders, different types, weighed them every day. Out of all 28, only 1 did not have any activity. So we learned they're going to eat this. A couple of other things we learned. This is very critical. And these are things that have not been published before. I don't get it. This actually is in Boston. You see this rat right here? And you see what she has in her mouth? That's a female. She has 2 of those little pellets, and she's taking it to her nest. Mom always brings home the bacon, right? Okay. Here in the Galapagos are male rats. What they do, they eat right at the station. They don't leave. They guard that station. And so this allows us to understand specific behaviors. Look at this little box. You see this? Those were little levels. Those are really important. This is a QR code, but it's a little different. This QR code will take you to a data portal. Now, once you start entering all this data, it geolocates where you are. So we know where that station is. We know what time of day it is. We know what the temperature is in Celsius. And we can take that data. We also can combine it with photographs. And then that leads into a large database. In 30 seconds, this is what I get. I get the feeding stations, where's the activity, and then this is Jamaica Plain in the city of Boston. I get where all the stations are. So I can watch consumption. When that consumption drops, I can call the neighbor who has that station and say, pick it up. You don't have any rats feeding there. Now, this is something that's very powerful, because fertility control will not work if you do not use it correctly. I don't care how good it is. You have to know the population. Is it a rat? Is it a brown rat? Is it a black rat? Is it a mouse? Then you begin your feeding. And as the mapping indicates from the data portal, you pick up the boxes that aren't being used. Also, here's the critical one. You're in maintenance. I'll give you some real-world examples. At the Salt Lake City Zoo, they had a problem with rodents in the panda enclosure. So they put this out. Oh my God, in 3 months, the rodents are like gone. Tip, if the population drops below 50%, you won't see them. They're still there, but you won't see them. So they stopped using it. To which we had to kindly say to the man who was leading this, would you tell your young daughter to stop taking her birth control pills just because she hasn't become pregnant? No, you wouldn't. This is so simple. It's just not easy. So monitoring is critical. The journey to come. Okay, this is the Venn diagram or the rodent population landscape. You've got to deal with the rodents. I think we've talked a lot about that. Chemical companies, Cheryl and I are still in the witness protection program. These companies have got to be persuaded that there's another way. How do we do that? We go to California and we take their products off the shelves. Now you better get innovative. Now you better find something that is not a chemical. And that's where policy and environment come into play. The applicators, the people who put it out. Don't think Orkin makes chemicals. They don't. They just serve us. They need to know how. The economics, remember I told you pennies? An entire month's supply of these pellets will cost a farmer less than $2. Rodenticide for a month's supply is going to cost him $45. And on and on and on. But you see what I mean? It's got to be cheap. Humans, please don't stop putting it out. This is birth control for rats. Okay. Here's what is really critical. We have to learn. We have to learn from the people. I love this photo. This was a bus driver who bounced us up through the hills of East Bella into these farms. And he said, the boxes are good, but we're lousy with these bamboo tubes. And so I said, well, you take that to your school on East Bella and you ask the children to make you something. They're not inhibited with how it should be. You have to understand the government. The government of Ecuador, we're in a little pause right now. It's not a comfortable place for us to be. You have to understand the environment. This is on the equator. They don't have 4 seasons a year. You have to understand the animals. Most of all, you have to understand the rodents. Okay, this is what Ecuador is doing. This is what we have. This is the road ahead, friends. And I'm telling you, I'm counting on Flagstaff. This is where it started. $646 million bond has been created for the island, for the Galapagos Islands, to stop biodiversity loss. No more dead Galapagos hawks. Dr. Ron Harrison is the international head of the Rollins Corporation, known to all of us in this room as Orkin. He and Cheryl and I have been colleagues for years. He's based in Kuwait right now, and we are putting together a plan where Orkin will provide the servicing. We will teach them, and then they will teach, because their service providers must be Ecuadorian. That's the law in that country. We'll be working with the Darwin Research Institute, Highland Conservation, and Farming Isabella. Here's the most exciting one. We just received a $652,000 grant by Open Philanthropy. They're one of the largest philanthropies in the world. In the last 5 years, they've given away $37 billion, and they want poison out of the environment. They believe we can do it, and they want us to look at food. And like I said, you can go to their website. The reason is, and I know this for a fact when I was in Rome at the FAO, we're losing 20 to 25% of everything we grow to rodent damage. If we could keep more of what we grow, we could feed more people. So we need to go from farm to the user. These check marks are where we've started. And you'll recognize what we're doing here. We want to be in a school. Morgan is working with Ponderosa High School. We are working with Purina because we need a manufacturing and a warehouse. They have both of them. It's small, 750,000 square feet. I'm joking. But they're having a management change. As soon as the new manager is on site, we can begin. We've started at Olson's. We will be adding Petco. And then we have that large project in Boston. But the phone keeps ringing. That rat czar in New York is relentless. We'll be there next week. We'll be working with them in Bryant Park to lay out a project. We're working with the city of Boston and Jamaica Plain. We've just added their neighborhood gardens. Marco Island in Florida. We are working to get them a service provider. I mentioned the Farallon Islands. We have a project in Malibu. That's where the California Poison-Free Malibu started it all. And that's where AB 1788 and 1322 went to live. Our colleagues in Kenya and Tanzania are using human birth control for the rats. That's bad for the environment. And they have asked for this. We went back to Open Philanthropies. We will be taking a group into Africa to work with those farmers. I mentioned the Salt Lake City Zoo, and the end of this month, the San Diego Zoo. It takes a whole community to do this, but here's the payoff. Here's what we get. We're going to get better welfare for our wildlife. We're going to get food security. We're going to keep more of what we grow. We're going to get poison out of our environment. We're going to manage by managing those population, the diseases those rodents carry. And I don't know if you know, there are unfortunately 3 cases of hantavirus in Flagstaff right now. And we are looking to do everything we can. Infrastructure, this is what's killing emerging countries. I'm sorry. So I've yammered on way too long.